Meanwhile, in a suburban area outside London, Leo Robinson was relaxing at home when Brad James angrily arrived. Brad complained that Leo had called him sounding like he was dying, so he rushed over thinking something terrible happened. Leo calmly thanked him for his concern and explained that modern games were too difficult for old people like him. Brad immediately got angry after realizing the truth. Then he noticed Akiyama Shun casually sitting nearby and playing video games. Brad shouted in disbelief and asked why Akiyama Shun was acting like coming over to their house was completely normal. Akiyama Shun innocently replied that visiting a friend's house was perfectly natural. Brad immediately denied ever becoming friends with him. The moment he heard that, Akiyama Shun quietly moved into the corner, looking depressed while apologizing. Seeing that reaction somehow made Brad even more frustrated. Leo then changed the topic and brought up the invitation they received. He showed Brad an envelope. Apparently, Akari invited all the former members to go on a beach trip together. Brad complained that the inn looked cheap and meant for ordinary people, so he had no intention of going. However, Akiyama Shun suddenly appeared behind him while listening excitedly. He happily suggested that they all go together because it sounded fun. Brad immediately yelled that he never invited him in the first place. Once again, Akiyama Shun looked depressed, unable to deal with him anymore. Brad finally gave up and shouted that they would all go together. Meanwhile, back at the Hunter Academy, Tanaka Manabu quietly studied inside the classroom. Recently, the Hunter Association's power weakened while the economy improved. Even his mother said their family finances were becoming better. Still, Manabu believed life could change at any moment. That was why he continued studying seriously to secure his future career, instead of wasting time playing around like his classmates. Then suddenly, someone called his name. When he looked up, he froze in shock. Akari was standing in front of him. Then she casually invited him to go to the sea with her tomorrow. Hearing that completely unexpected invitation, Manabu was left speechless. Caught completely off guard, Tanaka Manabu replied that he did not have any plans at the moment. The moment she heard that, Akari happily made the decision for him. They would meet in front of the school gates at 9 o'clock the next morning. Manabu agreed, but even after returning home, he could not stop thinking about it. That night, while lying in bed, he desperately tried to calm himself down. First, he needed to organize the situation properly. Earlier that day, the girl sitting next to him in class had invited him to the beach. No matter how he looked at it, that sounded like a date. Then another thought entered his mind. Did Akari actually like him? Manabu immediately tried to reject the idea. He was not exactly popular. Still, he did have a good impression of Akari. In fact, this would be his first date. The more he thought about it, the more nervous he became. How was he supposed to act? The next morning, Manabu arrived early and waited outside the school. He had barely slept at all. Then another worry hit him. Was wearing his school uniform the right choice? Before he could think any further, Akari arrived. She greeted him cheerfully and praised him for not being late. Manabu greeted her back, but then he noticed something shocking. Standing behind Akari were numerous S-rank hunters. Akari casually explained that the group had somehow become much larger than expected. Manabu stared at them in disbelief. He recognized every single one of them. These were all famous S-rank hunters listed in the hunter directory. As the hunters chatted among themselves, another familiar figure appeared. It was Akiyama Shun. Akiyama Shun complained that Akari never invited him personally. Manabu almost fainted from shock. The person speaking so casually was literally the world's strongest hunter. Akari laughed and explained that Reizai Shion had forgotten to give her his contact information. Then Reizai Shion arrived and announced that everyone was ready. Akari turned toward Manabu and asked if they should leave. Manabu could only stare blankly. At this point, he was honestly wondering whether they were heading to the beach or preparing for a war. A short while later, the group finally arrived at the coast. Standing on the beach, Manabu was still trying to understand what had happened. Just yesterday, he thought a girl had invited him on a date. Now he was surrounded by the strongest hunters in the world. Of course, he knew about Akari's achievements from the news. It probably was not strange for her to know famous hunters. Still, he could not help feeling disappointed. Maybe it really was not a date after all. Then several female S-rank hunters arrived and greeted everyone. Soon after, the male S-rank hunters joined them as well. Leo Robinson laughed while looking around. Everyone looked so young that he could not help feeling jealous. Standing nearby, Akiyama Shun was carrying several watermelons. He pointed out that Leo Robinson still looked young too. Then Akari arrived from behind and announced that everyone was finally here. Manabu looked at her for a moment before quickly turning away. Akari noticed immediately and asked what was wrong. Manabu claimed it was nothing. Akari simply smiled and told everyone to stop standing around. Now it was time to have fun. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the former headquarters of the Hunter Association had become a prison. Inside one of the cells sat Nicholas Gold. Someone asked him how he felt now that his empire had fallen. Nicholas merely smiled. He said there was no point discussing it anymore. Then he changed the subject. Around the same time, the keys for Whiteout had been collected, had they not? The officer questioning him refused to answer. Nicholas simply laughed. Then he offered one final warning. It would be better if they stopped now, because attempting Whiteout was a very bad idea. The man guarding the prison looked at Nicholas Gold and replied that from his perspective, it made sense. Once the Gate era ended, the entire hunter industry would eventually collapse. However, Nicholas simply shook his head. That was not the real issue. He told the man to think carefully and ask himself why. The guard remained silent. Seeing that, Nicholas laughed and said it was useless anyway. Meanwhile, the beach trip continued. One of the S-rank hunters suddenly challenged everyone to a race toward a small island in the distance. Several hunters immediately accepted and rushed into the water. Some of the female hunters relaxed beneath umbrellas while enjoying the ocean breeze. Nearby, Leo Robinson and a few others were busy building a giant sandcastle. Not far away, Akiyama Shun stood with a wooden stick in his hand. Wearing a blindfold, he carefully swung the stick forward. The next moment, a large boulder split perfectly in half. Everyone around him stared in shock. Removing the blindfold, Akiyama Shun smiled proudly. One thing he had always wanted to try in life was splitting a watermelon while blindfolded. Instead, he accidentally cut a boulder in half. Watching from nearby, Manabu could only stare in disbelief. Even when casually playing, the world's strongest hunter was absurd. Elsewhere, Akari was running across the beach playing with the children. Watching her laugh and play, Kanan smiled. Akari had always been surprisingly popular with children. A little later, Akiyama Shun entered the beach house. Inside, Rizi Shion was sitting alone. She noticed that he seemed genuinely happy. Akiyama Shun admitted that he was. Shion then asked whether the way he viewed people had changed since his battle with Akari. After a moment of thought, he nodded. For the first time in his life, he could truly see everyone as people. The world felt lively. It felt warm. Honestly, he had almost given up hope of ever experiencing something like this. That was why he could never thank Akari enough. Then his gaze shifted toward Shion's missing arm. He casually told her not to worry. After all, they had fought with the intention of killing him as well. Extending his hand, Akiyama Shun activated recovery magic. To Shion's surprise, her missing arm completely regenerated. Akiyama Shun explained that once someone obtained an end skill, they could also use the lower-level skills beneath it. After that, he smiled and said he was returning to the beach. He still wanted to enjoy the rest of the day. That evening, the S-rank hunters shared dinner together. They relaxed in the sauna, laughed, talked, and enjoyed a peaceful night. After an entire day of fun, everyone eventually went to sleep. The next morning, Manabu woke up earlier than everyone else. As he walked outside, he reflected on the trip. The S-rank hunters were far more normal and approachable than he had imagined. The experience was completely different from what he expected. Still, he had genuinely enjoyed it. Although one thing was certain, it definitely was not a date. Then a familiar voice called out to him. Turning around, he saw Akari. She greeted him with her usual smile. After exchanging greetings, Manabu asked something that had been bothering him. Why had she suddenly wanted to come to the beach? Akari looked at him curiously and asked if that was strange. Manabu explained that she had spent so much time traveling around the world recently that he never imagined she would want to do something so ordinary. Akari thought about it for a moment before answering. Before facing something important, she wanted to experience the kinds of things an ordinary high school student would do. She wanted to know what that life felt like, and honestly, it had been fun. But even now, her mind was still filled with anticipation for the next battle. Maybe she was simply not meant to live a peaceful life. Hearing that, Manabu smiled. He told her that she had changed. She looked brighter than before, more confident. Akari immediately grinned and declared that she was a rough diamond that shined when polished. That answer caught Manabu off guard. Then he admitted something unexpected. He actually liked the previous Akari better. For a moment, Akari was genuinely shocked. Quickly, Manabu clarified what he meant. He was not talking about romance. Becoming more confident was obviously a good thing. However, he still felt sorry for her situation. Unlike him, Akari possessed power far beyond ordinary people. It felt like a waste that she could never truly enjoy a peaceful everyday life. Akari listened quietly to his words. Meanwhile, far away, Sheen stood before the collected keys. Everything was finally ready. The final quest, White Out. As the activation process began, Akari's eyes lit up with excitement. A huge smile appeared across her face. Now she wondered what kind of enemy would appear. At last, the final quest had begun. After closing the box containing the keys, Sheen calmly announced that it was time to move. Akari immediately looked confused. She thought they were about to start the final quest right away. However, Sheen explained that White Out was a completely unknown quest. Nobody knew what would happen once it activated. Because of that, they needed to proceed carefully. As they traveled by car, Kanan reported that the Majima family's facilities were fully prepared. Sheen thanked her. Over the past few months, the Rizai family had requested cooperation from governments around the world and prepared for every possible scenario. High-ranking hunters had been stationed around major facilities such as power plants, water treatment centers, and other critical infrastructure. Many world leaders believed it would be enough to secure only the area where White Out would be activated. However, Sheen had pushed for worldwide security measures instead. Soon, they arrived at the activation site. It was one of the Majima family's highest-level research facilities, a facility dedicated to studying powerful hunter abilities. Looking around, Akari commented that it looked similar to the facility where the S-rank hunters had gathered before. Sheen agreed. Kanan then explained the difference. This facility was covered by multiple layers of special alloy. According to her, it could withstand an explosion, even if a nuke exploded inside. Standing before the keys, Sheen took a deep breath. Everything was finally ready. Akari impatiently asked how the keys were supposed to work. Sheen explained that all they needed to do was supply magical power. Besides the keys, there were also other rare items dropped by monsters that could be used to unlock the quest. Akari immediately urged her to hurry. Without wasting any more time, Sheen placed her hand over the keys and released her magic. Quest open. A massive beam of light instantly erupted from the keys. At that moment, a strange realization appeared in Sheen's mind. Something felt wrong. White Out had supposedly existed for years. Everyone in the world knew about it, and yet nobody had ever actually seen it. Why had nobody ever questioned that fact before? Why had everyone simply accepted its existence? Meanwhile, far away in prison, Nicholas Gold quietly smiled. It seemed Sheen had placed the entire world on high alert, but it was already too late. The inhabitants of this world could no longer question the existence of White Out. Nicholas praised Sheen as a truly talented girl. Then he looked toward the sky and wondered if everything was unfolding exactly as expected. As the beam of light shot upward, it pierced through the facility, passed through the atmosphere, and continued into outer space. There, far beyond Earth, it struck a mysterious gate floating between planets. Then another beam of light shot from it and struck a spacecraft waiting on the other side. Inside the spacecraft, a trooper reported receiving a white signal. Hearing that, a woman named Annie smiled. At last, she had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. She spoke about gathering the Demon Lord, the Witch, the Dwarves, and the Glass Slipper. Then she ordered the activation of a space transfer device. To her, everything was finally ready for a very entertaining ball. Back on Earth, in Tokyo, an ordinary man was arguing on the phone. He was in the middle of complaining about money when he suddenly noticed something strange in the sky. A giant gate had appeared above the city, then a massive spacecraft emerged from it. The man stared upward in disbelief. Before he could react, a young girl appeared nearby, holding a magical wand. She cheerfully recited a spell. Then she summoned giant teddy bears. These were not ordinary teddy bears. Each one possessed enormous claws and monstrous size. One of the bears immediately attacked the man. Its jaws opened wide and devoured half of his body in a single bite. The people nearby screamed in terror. At the same time, Hunter, named Kawakami Kenjin, engaged one of the creatures in battle. After exchanging blows, even he was shocked. Each teddy bear possessed incredible strength. Then things became even worse. Portals suddenly opened across the sky. From those portals, countless giant teddy bears began falling onto the city. While chaos spread across the world, a young boy desperately ran through the streets. Behind him, one of the giant teddy bear monsters was rapidly closing the distance. The terrified boy screamed for help. Just as the monster was about to catch him, a blade flashed through the air. In an instant, the teddy bear was sliced cleanly in half. The person who saved him was Hunter Kawakami Kenjin. After rescuing the boy, Kenjin analyzed the situation. The teddy bears were not opponents that an A-rank hunter like me could never defeat. However, anyone below B rank would struggle badly against them. The real problem was their overwhelming numbers. Looking toward the sky, Kenjin wondered what that mysterious flying object was and why it had suddenly appeared. Meanwhile, aboard the gigantic spaceship, an operator reported the results of the attack. The murder puppet assault corps had successfully begun operations and was causing massive damage across Dimension 4. Hearing the report, Lady Annie clapped her hands happily. Everything was proceeding wonderfully. However, one operator pointed out that the situation differed from the original plan. The teddy bears were not only attacking hunters, they were slaughtering ordinary civilians as well. Lady Annie simply smiled. According to her, there was still much fighting left to enjoy. A clumsy dance, lacking beauty, was not entertaining. What she wanted was a performance created by those who had mastered the art of battle. Then she gave another order: prepare the remodeling villain unit. The operators immediately acknowledged the command. Moments later, the massive spaceship began to shake. Lady Annie raised her hand and gave the order to fire. The operators activated the launch system. Immediately, numerous villain units were launched from the spaceship and descended toward Earth. The artificial warriors scattered across cities, beaches, and populated areas. The moment they landed, they began attacking civilians and hunters alike. One of the villain units struck Kawakami Kenjin directly. The impact launched him backward. As he stood up, Kenjin realized the attack had broken multiple bones. The enemies were far stronger than the teddy bears. Everywhere he looked, villain units and murder puppets were massacring people. For the first time, even Kenjin felt the true scale of the disaster. This was not an invasion, it was a massacre. Then suddenly, a powerful attack swept across the battlefield. Using Grand Shrine Ida-Ryu, a S-rank hunter instantly destroyed multiple teddy bears and villain units. Kenjin immediately recognized him as a S-rank hunter. The hunter explained that Reizei Shien's global emergency alert allowed many S-rank hunters to respond quickly, especially throughout Japan. Back aboard the spaceship, Lady Annie smiled again. The strongest beings of this world had finally appeared. That made the performance much more interesting. Then she ordered the deployment of another unit, Hestia 2V. The operators immediately obeyed. Large sections of the spacecraft opened. Inside were enormous humanoid robots. One after another, the machines launched toward the surface. Seeing them descend from the sky, the hunters below were stunned. Giant robots had now joined the battlefield. One of the machines immediately targeted an S-rank hunter and fired. Elsewhere, Kanan was speaking through a video call with another hunter. She demanded to know what was happening. The hunter admitted that nobody understood the situation. A mysterious spacecraft had appeared over Tokyo, and monsters and robots were now attacking all over the world. Listening to the report, Reizei Shien began connecting the pieces. Something about Whiteout had always felt wrong. Everyone somehow believed there was a final quest that would end the Gate era, yet nobody had ever actually seen it. Nobody questioned where the information came from. Nobody even questioned why they believed it in the first place. As she thought about it, Shien felt increasingly uneasy. What exactly was Whiteout? And more importantly, what terrifying truth was hidden behind it? Before anyone could answer, a new voice suddenly appeared through the communication system. The image of a woman appeared on every screen. It was Lady Annie. She calmly greeted the people of Earth. Then her eyes moved toward Akari. A smile spread across her face. Finally, she spoke directly to her. It had been a long time. Her dear Demon Lord. Lady Annie said, "It's been a while, my dear Demon Lord." Akari was quiet for a moment before asking, "Who are you?" Behind her, Kanan asked, "You don't know her?" Lady Annie laughed and said, "Well, it's okay if you don't remember," Akari replied. "No, I remember. In my previous world, there was a party that was defeated by me at the beginning. In that party, this woman carried the luggage." Lady Annie replied, "Thank you for remembering me. I am honored, Supreme Demon Lord." Akari continued, "Even if I remember all those who challenged me in the last 10,000 years, you were by far the weakest of them all." Hearing that, Lady Annie replied, "Yes, I am weak. That's why I had no choice but to carry the luggage of the powerful hero." The hero was strong, his combat ability was incredible, and the way he became even stronger when cornered made him a true protagonist. He defeated powerful enemies one after another and ended the Great War. He became known as a hero throughout the world. I thought I could simply follow behind him, but that hero was defeated. It happened too suddenly. At that time, after defeating the hero's party, the Demon Lord walked toward Lady Annie and said, "You may return. Not only are you weak, but you also have no fighting spirit in your heart. I do not even want to defeat you." Hearing those words, Lady Annie thought to herself, "I want to defeat you, the strongest demon lord. I want to defeat him." However, she was still overwhelmingly weak. Even if she fought normally, she would never stand a chance against the demon lord. "The first thing I did was develop immortality magic. The lifespan of a human is too short. I was so excited when I completed it right before the end of my life. The next thing I did was develop dimensional transfer magic. I believed that the things that existed in my world alone would never be enough to defeat the demon lord. It was based on the gate of reincarnation that even the demon god himself could use. As long as that existed, it was obvious that other worlds existed. And so, over a very long period of time, I traveled through many worlds and gathered the strongest elites who could defeat the strongest demon lord. Then Lady Annie calls, "The strongest protagonist union." 4 figures stepped forward and stood behind her. Lady Annie continued, "They are the protagonists of their own worlds. They fought through their destinies, overcame every fate, defeated every enemy, and saved their respective worlds. The one and only #1 heroes. Everything was done to defeat you, Demon Lord. The keys to Whiteout were merely devices used to send a message to me while I waited in another dimension. They existed only to let me know that you had arrived in this world. In other words, I am the one who made the gates appear in this world." Lady Annie smiled. "How about it, my beloved Demon Lord? How are the guests I have prepared for you?" Akari smiled. "Of course, it's the best. I can tell that what you're saying isn't a bluff. Every single one of them feels different. I can't help but look forward to it." Akari looked at Lady Annie and the heroes standing behind her with excitement in her eyes. Meanwhile, the S-rank hunters fought outside. Inside the facility, Akari smiled at Lady Annie and asked, "Now then, who is coming first? You all don't seem like the type to attack together." Lady Annie nodded. "That's right. The Demon Lord understands the feelings of the strong." Immediately, the 4 heroes began arguing. One of them laughed and said, "It's obviously me." Another hero frowned. "What's so obvious about that?" The first hero pointed at himself proudly. "I am #1, so I will go first. It's inevitable." A third hero looked annoyed. "Aren't you weaker than me, though?" The first hero immediately replied, "No, I am #1 because I am #1. Watching them argue, Kanan sighed. "They're fighting already." Lady Annie smiled. "I knew this would happen. They really are a strong-willed bunch." She took out 4 sticks. One of them had a bear-head mark on it, like a lottery ticket. The little magical girl looked at the others. "I don't mind going later. I still have some cleaning up to do first." Lady Annie nodded. "Go ahead, magical girl. Take as much time as you need." Then she looked toward the remaining 3 heroes. "Now then, no more complaining." Each of them drew a stick. One hero looked at his result. "I got a blank." Another hero checked his own. "Me too." The hero who had insisted on going first suddenly burst into laughter. "I knew it. I am #1. If you had just let me go from the start, everything would have been much quicker." He looked proudly at the others. Lady Annie smiled. "Then go. Hero Max Sanders." Without hesitation, Max Sanders launched himself out of the spaceship. A massive explosion echoed through the air. One of the heroes watched him leave and sighed. Why did he make a hole when he could have just used the exit? Lady Annie ignored the complaint and looked back at Akari. "Now then, have fun, Demon Lord." Outside, Max Sanders flew through the sky with excitement. He could feel it. The Demon Lord was directly below him. "Found you. Let's start from the front." Gathering power into his fist, he activated his skill. Justice Punch. Max crashed straight through the facility roof. The entire structure shook violently. Layer after layer of reinforced metal was destroyed by a single punch. The impact tore through the building and sent debris flying in every direction. Landing inside the facility, Max laughed loudly. "The hero has arrived. I found you, evil Demon Lord." Akari smiled. "That's right. The evil Demon Lord who has been killing people for about 10,000 years is me. I hope you succeed, hero." Then she jumped into the air. Max laughed and immediately flew after her. "Don't run away, evil door. Just wait." Kanan watched the 2 disappear almost instantly. "He's already gone." Rizi Xian nodded. "Let's leave them to Miss Akari. We need to protect the civilians." She looked around at the destroyed facility. Even destroying a structure like this with a single punch, that power is probably greater than even Akiyama Shun's. Xian looked toward the sky where Akari and Max had vanished. "This may be exactly what you wanted. Still, please be careful, Miss Akari." Akari flew into the air with Max Sanders chasing right behind her. Max laughed. Within an instant, he closed the distance and appeared above Akari. Akari thought to herself that he was fast. Max threw a punch. The impact sent Akari crashing into the ground. Both of her arms were broken, and blood covered her body. Max landed and said, "What a pity. You will die from this fist of justice. You are definitely an enormous evil." Akari slowly stood up. "A hero of justice, huh? But you are still." She paused. "Well, that doesn't matter. I came to this world and watched a lot of anime and manga. I always wondered if those heroes would come and defeat me." Dark energy erupted from her body. Akari activated her second form, Angra Mainyu. Then she smiled. "You are very welcome. Hero, now defeat me. I will take on the role of the true final boss of your story." Meanwhile, the S-rank hunters continued fighting across the city. The demonic teddy bears and humanoid robots rampaged everywhere, destroying everything in their path. The S-rank hunters worked together to eliminate the monsters while protecting civilians. One of the S-rank hunters looked toward the battlefield and thought, "If it's just the dolls and the black tights, we can manage somehow. But those humanoid robots are a pain." Suddenly, one of the robots attacked. The hunter was sent flying into a wall. At that moment, Shrine Ido Ryu stepped forward. Don't underestimate them. Activating Tiger Flash Sword, he slashed at the humanoid robot. The attack completely destroyed one of the robot's arms. Shrine Ido Ryu looked at the damaged machine and said, "It's not completely helpless. It has combat ability comparable to an S-rank hunter." He looked at the large number of robots gathering around them. These numbers are going to be difficult. Just as the robots prepared to attack, Ryazai Xian arrived. Using Blizzard Dust, she froze multiple enemies at once. She apologized for being late. "It's not just me." Standing on top of a nearby building, Kanan activated her end skill. Her body transformed into plasma. With a wave of her hand, she fired a powerful laser. The beam pierced straight through one of the humanoid robots, leaving a massive hole in its body. The remaining robots immediately turned their weapons toward Kanan and attacked her with their guns, but the beam of light completely passed harmlessly through her plasma body. Kanan calmly replied, "Physical attacks are ineffective." She then unleashed Lightning Strike. The robot exploded instantly. Watching the scene, Rizi Xian nodded. "It's a machine. She can disrupt its systems with lightning, and physical attacks don't work on her." Hearing that, Shrine Ido Ryu laughed. "That end skill is definitely a cheat. It seems like we can handle these things." Then he looked toward the humanoid minions and the endless waves of dolls. "But what about those? If we leave the humanoid minions and dolls alone, the damage will continue spreading." Rizi Xian nodded. "There is a solution. We have some very strong people on our side." On top of a building stood Akiyama Shun. Looking over the city, he spoke quietly to himself. "I lost to Akari. I didn't understand it until then, but now I can see people as humans. Every human life is precious. Everyone has a history. Everyone has their own joys. There are joyful births, Mom, I will protect these people's lives." At that moment, he received a communication. "Akiyama Shun, location B13. Evacuation has been completed." Hearing the report, he immediately launched himself forward. Moments later, he landed in the middle of a street where demonic teddy bears and humanoid minions were attacking civilians. Akiyama Shun looked at them and said, "I would be grateful if you let them go." The demonic teddy bears and humanoid minions surrounded him from every direction. A blue aura suddenly erupted from his body. The pressure alone blasted everything away. Windows shattered throughout the surrounding buildings. In an instant, every demonic teddy bear and humanoid minion collapsed to the ground defeated. Then he looked up. Above him, numerous robots were flying through the sky. Akiyama Shun said, "Apparently those robots protect the person inside from magical pressure. I'll leave those to everyone else. Let's move to the next location." Then he leaped into the air. The robots immediately began chasing after him. Meanwhile, Nura Bint Sayla and Brad James were fighting a group of robots. Brad James threw a powerful punch directly into one of the machines. On the other side of the battlefield, Shrine Ido Ryu spoke to Rizi Xian. "I see. It's like a convenient wide-area suppression weapon." Rizi Xian nodded. "Yes. Now that the civilian evacuation is complete, everything except the machines can be defeated at once." Nearby, Kanan unleashed her powers. Electricity spread across the battlefield as she electrified dozens of robots. Many of them were destroyed instantly. After finishing them off, she landed beside Rizi Xian. "The machines have been cleaned up." Rizi Xian nodded. "Let's buy more time until then." Suddenly, a magical star appeared behind them. A small girl stepped out of the light. She smiled brightly and struck a pose. "Don't underestimate me." Everyone turned toward her in confusion. The little girl introduced herself. "I am Komura Hotaru. I will super-duper purify your dirty hearts perfectly. I am a magical girl." Shrine Ido Ryu stared at her in disbelief. Before anyone could react, Kanan stepped forward. "Be careful. This girl is part of the protagonist union. She may look like that, but she is a protagonist who saved her own world. Everyone fell silent. Even through the screen earlier, Akari had been able to sense her talent. And now that they were standing face to face. Meanwhile, Akari laughed as she charged forward with a punch. Max Sanders also rushed forward. Their fists collided head-on. The impact was so powerful that the surrounding buildings cracked apart from the shockwave. Akari was surprised. One of her hands was completely shattered. Akari immediately activated Fireball level max 50. A massive sphere of fire appeared above her and rushed toward him. Seeing it, Max raised his fist. The source of my power is a just heart. I can hear them. The voices of innocent people lamenting. The citizens who have been tormented by you are calling out to me. That's right. He clenched his fist. I am on the side of justice, so I can't afford to lose. Max launched himself forward and punched the gigantic fireball. The attack exploded instantly. The shockwave swallowed the area. Akari was blasted away and crashed into the wall of a nearby building. The entire structure cracked apart. She fell to the ground covered in blood. Max landed in front of her and laughed. Do you understand the power of justice now? That's right. That's exactly what a protagonist should be. To be able to destroy my second form so easily. Dark magical power began to gather around her. Max watched silently. Akari smiled wider. Hopefully this one will be broken through just as easily.